Brock Purdy the best quarterback in the NFC?
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that because when they were on that 3-game losing streak, we weren't saying that about him then. Obviously, when you see him perform with Trent Williams, and Trent Williams was a monster yesterday. I mean, just shoving
every
people,
day,
just throwing people
day.
all over the damn place. I like, Lord have mercy. This brother's something else, okay? So you saw that going on. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey ran for 2 scores and 114 yards. You see that going on. Obviously, Deebo Samuels had a touchdown. You see that going on. So when you have your pieces in place, Brock Purdy certainly you can make the argument that he looks like the best quarterback in the conference. Whew. But I can't ignore how he looked when Deebo was out. And because of that, I simply can't say that at this moment in time. Could he be? Will we end up saying that about him when the season is over? Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. Possibly likely. Because I think they come in. I think San Francisco's going to win the chip.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion. I think they can win the chip. But to give Brock Purdy that right now, no, not after what we saw those 3 weeks.
The best quarterback in the NFC is in Philadelphia. His name is Jalen Hurts. The second best quarterback in the NFC is in San Francisco. His name is Brock Purdy. And the third best quarterback in the NFC is Dak Prescott, and he's in Dallas. Jalen Hurts is averaging 2.5 touchdowns a game. I mean, we're getting to a point with Jalen because now there was some turnovers early on in the season. Like that's fair. We're getting to a point where we're just pretending he's not great. And we can't allow that to happen. We've done it to Patrick Mahomes. We've done it to Josh Allen. The clutch plays last week were very real. And so, like, that's the best guy in the division or in the conference right now. And the way that he is playing and starting to surge, I don't care about the left knee. I did like 3 weeks ago. I don't care about it right now. It's not far to Brock Purdy, though. This is not a Jalen Hurts is by himself and then, oh my goodness, Brock Purdy Brock Purdy has changed this offense in San Francisco. There's quarterback QBR-wise, I think he leads the NFL. He's playing at an unbelievable level, and that offense is the hardest offense in the NFL to stop. San Francisco has the hardest offense in the NFL to stop. And then I put Dak Prescott at third. But Jalen Hurts, I have to give him his credit, is the best quarterback in the conference.
Purdy leads the NFL in completion percentage and yards per attempt.
And he's changed that offense, Stephen A. He's changed it.
Go ahead, RC.
Yeah, I think this is a difficult conversation because I believe we can all be honest, even with what Brock Purdy has accomplished over the last year or so, that if we had to draft quarterbacks, we wouldn't be clamoring for Brock Purdy at number 1. But when we look at what they do within the schemes that they play for, with the skill sets of the people provided around them, that's where Brock Purdy comes into the conversation. That's when Brock Purdy executing Kyle Shanahan's offense at a level we've never seen it executed comes into the conversation. That's when we look at his accuracy, you look at his anticipation, his toughness, his leadership, and all of those different things. And you say, yeah, you take Jalen Hurts one with the way that he's played and with some of the things he can do above the X's and O's. And I think for me next, with the way that they're playing now, it's Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy together. I think Brock Purdy has found a way to make Brandon Ayuk better. He's found a way to make Deebo Samuel better. Because of Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey does have the leeway to move around and be positionless, but also have that run game be as efficient and effective as it is, because you just can't stack the box with 8 against this team because they've gone 21 personnel, because now they get into different formation and they use these people in different positions, and Brock Purdy executes that better than anyone in the NFL executes their singular offense. And so I think when you look at this team and then look at this team whole, it's hard to discuss and hard to not say that they aren't the best team in the NFC. Together, right? Their 5 best players offensively, they've never lost a game. Right. And that's not just saying that to be like, oh, we don't think these guys can lose. No, it's legitimate. Literally, they've never lost a game together. And so they have to have the ultimate confidence going down the stretch that if their roster is healthy, no one in the world can beat them. And when you watch them play last night and pick apart the Seattle Seahawks, both defensively and offensively, it's hard to not believe that as well.
When they go on the road, they take their show on the road. It does not faze them at all. There's no such thing as hostile territory because they know they got a defense that can keep the crowd quiet. Their last 3 victories, Jacksonville, Tampa, Seattle, that's nothing to sneeze at, particularly the fashion they handled all 3 of them. So we got to look at that level of dominance. I'm just not sure I would throw Dak Prescott into the equation when you consider the level of competition he's going to get.
No, that's fair. I think the interesting thing when we look at these 3 guys is Dak and Purdy, if we're being fair and honest, are in a little bit of the same group. When they get into, like, my team has the lead and it's just this suffocating style of football, they play from a level of comfort, and they play at a high level when they do it.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of evidence of Dak and Brock Purdy, like, having to say, hey, it's fourth quarter, we're down 21-17. We have that with Jalen, and I think that gives Dak has 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions when trailing this year. Not like that's very average, right? I think we have a little bit more evidence that when game is on the line, Monday Night Football, last week, who do you want the ball in their hands?
26-2 over the last 28 starts.
2nd and 10. There it is. This is history. If Bland can take it the distance, this will be the record. Bland for the 5th time has a pick 6. It's never happened in the history of the NFL.
All right, quick takes, let's get it. DaRon Bland made history with his 5th pick 6 yesterday, the most in a single season in NFL history. RC, we know how difficult this is. How impressed were you?
Oh, I'm extremely impressed. You know, my friend, one of my best friends in the world, is the secondary coach in Dallas, and he said that they'd be all right because of DaRon Bland. If you look at what he was able to do last year, playing the slot for Jordan Lewis, even moving outside, he showed a level of skill. He showed an ability to get the ball. But to have 5 pick 6s in 1 year, to break a record that has stood for so long, and to do it in so many different ways, in so many different parts of the field, DaRon Bland's an absolute superstar. And I think that we are irresponsible in doing our jobs if we're not talking about him for Defensive Player of the Year. When you look at guys like Bob Sanders, Charles Woodson, Ed Reed, Troy Polamalu, and you compare some of those years to what DaRon Bland is having, he absolutely blows those out of the water. I know it's all about the rushers in today's game, but DaRon Bland has shown that he's one of the top defensive players in the entire league. And Trayvon Diggs, though a superstar, has not been missed because of the level of this young man's play.
I'm not going to get into names because I don't want to leave anybody out. And RC, I'm not disagreeing with anything you say. I applaud you bringing that up. I just want to take a moment without mentioning their names. I'll do it at a later date. When I was at the Philadelphia Eagles-Dallas Cowboys game in Philadelphia a couple of weeks ago, I met the strength and conditioning staff of the Dallas Cowboys. All of them are brothers.
I know who you met.
All of them are brothers.
Yep.
Salute to all of them. You understand what I'm saying? It touched my heart as a black man to see their entire strength and conditioning staff, to be a bunch of brothers out there getting these brothers in tip-top condition and whatever. You don't see that very often in the world of professional sports, if ever. So I want to take a moment to say that. That's all I cared about at this moment.
All right. The surprise of the Turkey Day was the Lions falling to the Packers in Detroit. Jared Goff lost 3 fumbles for the first time in his career, including 2 in the first quarter. He also had 3 turnovers last week against the Bears. Dan Campbell not going into panic mode.
The easy thing is to get in panic mode, and I know, what it looks like, and it wasn't good enough out there, but I'm not panicked. We got the right guys here. We know how to play. We got to clean some things up, and we'll have 6 to go when we get back. And the fight's on, man.
Dan, tell me this. You feel like this was just a bad game, or is this a bad sign?
It's a bad sign.
Really?
Yeah. So first of all, the thing that has made Detroit who have they been over the last almost 20 games is their offensive line has physically dominated games. I think this was the first time this year their offensive line got dominated. Green Bay's defensive line got after Detroit's offensive line. So that has to be a little bit concerning for Detroit. Number 2, second straight game Jared Goff has played poorly. Now, led him to a great comeback against Chicago, but he's played poorly. And so not getting protected, he's being careless with the football. He's not a guy that can hang on to the ball and try to go do things with it and go athletically be creative. That's not who he is. And he's lost that a little bit. The third thing is this. This defensive line cannot make a play when they have to. Outside of Aiden Hutchinson, RC, you know it. Like, when this team's got to play a Dallas or a San Fran or a Philly, they need to go get 3rd and 6. We need to lock down somebody and go get the quarterback. They can't. I don't believe that they can. And their defense has gotten worse, and Jared Goff is starting to play poorly, and their offensive line got beat up. So this is 2 straight weeks of that happening. That's a bad sign for still is a good football team.
Go ahead, RC.
Yes, this is a good football team, but you have to start to wonder when you listen to Dan Campbell, who isn't pressing the panic button, who understands that these final 6 truly matter. You have to start to wonder when people in Detroit, people around that building, or even the players go, are we really even as good as we were playing? Right. Is Jared Goff the quarterback we've seen the last 2 weeks, or was he the quarterback we've seen over the last year? Can this defense find ways to get stops? If we're not getting pressure, can Jerry Jacobs and Cam Sutton lock up? Can Tracy Walker Jr. and Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, can those guys make plays? Can we watch Alex Anzalone play at this high level that he was playing at early on in the season? What can Aaron Glenn do to get stops defensively? Because Jordan Love looked just like his 2 predecessors on Thanksgiving. The way that we watched Brett Favre play in his first game, the way that we watched Aaron Rodgers play in his first Thanksgiving game, Jordan Love looked just like that. He looked confident. He looked comfortable in the pocket. He made plays the entire day, and there was nothing the Detroit Lions did to stop that. And Jared Goff, who has played extremely well, Dan told you exactly why. This offensive line has been dominant.
Yes.
Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary absolutely wrecked this offensive line, which made Jared Goff speed his game up. It made Jared Goff get out of character. And when he gets out of character, he isn't the player that we've seen since he's been in Detroit. And so to me, this is a bad sign. To me, this is something you have to worry about. Because if it weren't for the last 4 minutes and 15 seconds of last week, this team will have lost 2 division games at home in a row.
Detroit Lions and Jared Goff. 12 quarterback hurries, 3 sacks, 27 pressures. Let's not forget Kenny Clark and what he was doing. Rashawn Gary with his 3 sacks, like you pointed out, RC. So we got to bring that up, okay? So you're getting pressure on Jared Goff. Jared Goff got 6 turnovers in 2 games. All right, lost all 3 fumbles yesterday. That's not good. That's the Jared Goff that got pushed out of Los Angeles.
You're right.
That's the Jared Goff that the Los Angeles Rams can't win with, which is why we got to go and get Matthew Stafford and send him someplace else, because we ain't going to capture that Super Bowl championship with this brother at the quarterback spot. That's the Jared Goff that we've seen over the last 2 weeks, instead of a guy that was a viable MVP candidate because of the way they were playing prior to these last 2 weeks. So we got to take that into consideration as well. Lions, 3 turnovers yesterday against none for the Packers, 1 and 5 on 4th downs. We got to bring that into consideration as well. And then when I look at it, and I'm saying to myself, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, they were running the football effectively. Why didn't you give them the ball a little bit more? It would have been nice to see them doing something like that. And on the flip side, I'm looking at Jordan Love. Jordan Love looked pretty damn good yesterday.
Yes, he did.
It's a tale of it's been 3 different seasons for him. First part of the season, first 2 games, 7 touchdowns, 1 interceptions. First 3 games rather, 2-1 record. Next 4 games, 4 DD passes, 7 interceptions, 0-4 record. Over the last 4 games, 8 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions, okay? 3-1 record. So we're seeing him up and down, up and down, up and down. But the way he's flinging that football, how composed he looked, the sidearm throws that he was doing, he did look a lit Aaron Rodgers-ish, okay? Certainly not there yet. We're not saying that. But he showed potential yesterday. It showed why you had the Green Bay Packers saying, yo, let's get a brother a chance. So I say the answer to this question would be both, bad game and a bad sign. Bad sign because we don't like what we see from Detroit. Not only did you wet the bed yesterday on Thanksgiving, okay, you showed up in Baltimore weeks ago, you wet the bed then.
The defense has not played well since Baltimore.
And Hutchinson's the only dude that can apply any kind of pressure whatsoever. So I'm looking at them on the defensive side of the ball. The defensive side of the ball is starting to resemble what they looked like last year to some degree. I'm looking at it from that perspective, and I'm saying bad game and bad sign.
Yeah, you're right. He's getting pressured a lot.
Who, Jared?
Jared?
Yeah, and I think, just to kind of button the Detroit conversation is Jared is not, and I love Jared, but he's not a quarterback that you can live with a takeaway or turnover or 2 because the splash plays will overshadow them.
Yes.
Them.
Like you would normally say of a Josh Allen kind of thing.
The name that I was just going to say.
Exactly.
Sometimes you go, Josh, what are you doing?
But,
oh, you threw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So, like, that's got to get fixed.
Right.
And I also think this, like, Stephen A., to your point with Green Bay, if Green Bay continues to play that way, like I said this before, how many other teams are doing this and quarterbacks are doing this right now? Like, they are one of the handful of teams that are doing this comparison to who they were. If he continues to play that way and they continue to play that way, they're going to get into the playoffs. And their defense is starting to play better. They've found their identity on offense. That matters. And you're watching this young man mechanically get better. When his mechanics are good, the talent starts to show up. So I think, like, this is the big takeaway for me, is how heavy play action they are. And we talk about play action in football all the time. The reason the Packers are doing it is because it's keeping him protected. Look at these pockets that he's getting to throw.
Yep.
That's one of those sidearm throws that Stephen A. is talking about. A lot of teams do play action for a bunch of different reasons. When they have their 2 tight ends on the field, under center, look at his. Stephen A's going to get completions in this. He's 6-7 yards from the nearest defender. Easy, hitch. Find a check down that goes for 12 yards. And then some of these explosive pass plays, it's the same formation, it's the same action. But the play action to allow this young man to be protected, then his mechanics don't have to necessarily be flawless.
Right.
This throw over this linebacker is a pearl. If Aaron was making that throw, we would love it. So I think that's their identity.
You know, in the interest of full disclosure to the American public, breaking news. It might shock you, but I don't know if I would have been able to make that throw. I don't know if I would have been able to make that throw. I don't know if I've been able to. It's shocking.
I don't know.
I know it's shocking.
I know it's shocking.
I saw him on the mound.
I know it's shocking. I know
You
it's
say
shocking.
no shot or he can't.
I know it's shocking. I know it's shocking. I don't
He
think
gets
I'd
the
make that
completion
throw.
or no?
I don't think I'd make that throw. I see.
Did you
I don't
see
think
him
it
on the
makes
mound?
Maybe he would one hop it.
You don't.
Crickets.
You do not.
Crickets.
What about Roussel?
Bounce pass.
Crickets.
Bounce
What about
pass.
Roussel?
Hey, I told you, man, I'm not Roussel anymore, bro. I'm with that CJ Stroud is my first name now, man. Listen, you look at this team and the way that the Green Bay Packers are playing and starting to ascend, and then you look at the landscape of not only the NFC North, but you look at the landscape of the NFC. They are one of the few teams that when you look at their quarterback play, it's getting better. You think about what they had to do defensively, and I said this, Jonathan Owens told y'all yesterday, y'all gonna stop calling me Simone Biles' husband. But that is where this team is now from a roster standpoint on the back end. There was no Jair Alexander. They traded Rasul Douglas, who was the other starting corner, to the Buffalo Bills. And so it seemed like to me at one point, this was the team that was mailing it in, that they had decided that Jordan Love couldn't do it over that 4-game stretch. But you look at the way he's playing with this young, talented group of skilled players on the outside. Matt LaFleur, to me, called one of the best games I've ever seen him
That's
call
where I was going, RC.
He was absolutely.
That's what I wanted to ask y'all.
How
How is Matt LaFleur doing this year in y'all estimation?
Bro, Matt LaFleur is changing, right? Matt LaFleur looks like a guy that had Michael Jordan, then Michael Jordan went to play baseball, and they had to figure out how Tony Kukoc was going to close games. That's exactly what he's doing now. He's stepping into the era of coaching Jordan Love and not coaching Aaron Rodgers. He's stepping into, how do I protect him? How do I give him throws that line up best with his skill set? How do I build confidence with him? And you think about yesterday, there was no Aaron Jones. Right? And so you're running play action passes without having your number one rusher. And so I think when I looked at this team yesterday, I was more confident that they could compete down the stretch and continue to get better than I was when I was watching the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, to me, right now, are a team that has peaked, a team that has flatlined, a team that has shown you this is the best we could be.